When you think of great American road courses, you think of the banks of Daytona, and sometimes even Road Atlanta, in Georgia, of course. But today we're at Florida. Here we're at Sebring Raceway, a famous circuit on the sports car calendar, and we're racing those type of machinery here. I'm Finney Nakuna. I'm not with Kyle Heyer currently at the moment. Hopefully he will join us later tonight. He's currently feeling under the weather, so hope that he gets better and is able to join us later. But right now qualifying is underway. Got live a little bit later than I would have liked, but we're gonna go live here nonetheless. Alright, so few drivers have been able to set a time down. One of those drivers is DJ Alessandrini in the 191 Audi Red Bull, and it's just had pace all weekend long and has been doing a fantastic job here so far. Only 5 guys have put a time down. Kenneth Hoseal is currently in second. Kevin Ferlin is currently in third. So we'll pop the scoring here on the side. And you can see time is relatively close here so far at the moment. Hoseal a little bit behind, 5/10 behind Alessandrini, trying to catch up. These guys still have 15 minutes to put a lap down, trying to get qualifying underway here. We have about a little bit over 20 cars here tonight. Decent sized field here in GT3 machinery. This is a non-championship points event. These guys are not in the FRS or the MX5 here. This is purely just for fun, and 45 minutes of it. And what better road course than to have that kind of fun here than here at Sebring? And notably too, if we can look here on board here with the 97. Just kind of taking a look at how bumpy this track is. It's very bumpy, very abrasive, and you can just tell by the surface, just by looking at it visually, how worn out this track is compared to other ones on the schedule. And it's really going to wear these guys' tires out, and you might be wondering, well, 45 minutes doesn't seem like too long for these guys, or it feels like it's long enough for them to go on a tank, but these guys are running only 60% fuel, so they will have to make a stop at some point in this race. So we'll probably see these guys cut into even stints. But here you see the 97 rounding out the final corner here. We'll see what time he's going to put down. He's 1.3 seconds behind Alessandrini. See if he can gain some time here as he comes out of Sunset Bend. And it looks like he was able to make up about 2/10 on that, bring that gap down to 1.52 seconds. So still hoping for some more time to be gained here. Gotta say sorry, just realized Kyle, thank you Kyle for giving me a small text updating me on the banner. Fixed that just now. I was kind of wondering why that was a little bit different, but yeah, currently we are 12 minutes 40 seconds into qualifying right here. Hoseal, 4/10 of a second behind, was able to make up just a little bit of time to Alessandrini, but he's been so good these last few weeks here in the VirtualMARRS series, and just has a little bit of time to make up left. And here we're looking on with the 91 of Dave Fitzgerald and a BMW. Notably, not that many here. Most of the guys have elected to run in the Mercedes AMG GT3, and there's a particular reason for trying to pick that car. It has the most power out of all the GT cars here, so you're going to get a lot more speed down the straightaways, and there's two notably very long straightaways. If we can go back to the blimp cam here, you notice at the front stretch and back stretch there on the top right hand corner, very long straightaways, so you really need that power to help you through there. But another car that might give a little bit of a surprise here is the Ferrari machinery, if you can actually try to find one. Trying to see who's in a Ferrari, or the highest Ferrari. Not many of them there. There we go. Natirbov there in the 19. Currently in 10th, all the way back in 10th. That's another one of those cars that has a shot at really being good. These kinds of cars are going to be very good in the corners, and notably too, a lot of BMWs out here tonight, and those guys are also going to have gain an advantage on the Mercedes in the corners as well. So still have qualifying underway here on with Ito Walksman. He's actually just dropped down to 6th. Fitzgerald now put a better time down. He's up into 5th place. So starting to gain a little bit of time here. 2 seconds between the top 6 drivers, and 15 have in total put a time down here. So still waiting on for some guys to put some more times down. And notably, too, looking back up here at the top of the charts here, the 23 of Kenneth House Heels now dropped that deficit down to 0.2 of a second to Allison Drini, so he's really starting to make up some time here. Dennis Barrett also been quietly moving his way up the ladder, up into 3rd here in that 83. So currently, manufacturer-wise, your top 3 is Audi, BMW, and then Mercedes. So a little bit of diversity here. So it's right on board here with it is the 43 of Louis Alessi in the 43 here. And currently qualified in 7th, now trying to move that up. You see him go through this S section here down one of the back straightaways. Very flat out part of the track and into a very heavy braking zone. This is going to be one of those prime opportunities to make a pass here. If you can get a good run out of the hairpin down into here. I'm going to see a lot of passes here tonight. And it looks like the 97 has moved back up. He fell a few spots down. Looks like he, I think, went from 4th to 3rd place now up the order. So starting to move his way back into position here. Still no one is catching the 191 of Allison Drini here. Still has got the pole here and has been holding it for just over half the session now of 20 minutes of qualifying. Now with just under 8 minutes to go. So he's really looking like the favorite here tonight. And I was in a practice session, me and Kyle were both in a practice session with him, and he still had the pace there, and not many cars can touch him. So if I were to put money on any driver here, I would put it on the 191. Here on with the number 3 of Chris Herbert, doing a solid job. He's currently back in 16th, 5.3 seconds off the leader. So it still has some time to be found there. You see the brakes glowing on that Mercedes. That's a very, like I was talking about, very heavy braking zone. You can tell in the Mercedes there how heavy it is. This is also another very tricky part of the track to try to navigate here. This little kind of S section here. If you catch the curbing, you can see even the 3 of Herbert there got a little bit loose on there. If you catch the curbing in just the wrong place, just the wrong time, you see him run off also in the final corner, going down the Sunset. It could really upset your car. And speaking of what Herbert just did, if you go wide in that corner, you can lose a lot of potential speed going down the straightaway, and it can allow you to be passed by maybe 1 or 2 drivers down the straightaway alone. Khalil Nachirbov, he's moved up a few places, moved up for last time we saw him, he was in 10th, qualified, is now up into 8th place, and I'm wondering if he can hold that there. I believe he's the highest Ferrari on the grid tonight, and one of the only few Ferraris. I think I only saw one other Ferrari in a white paint scheme, not entirely sure who that is. But we'll probably see them tonight. Again, 21 cars it seems we have here tonight to start taking the green flag here at Sebring. And notably too, it looks like some drivers have pulled off the track, and I'm kind of wondering if they will get on maybe later trying to put in a final lap here. But some drivers looking like they're pretty happy with their times. Hasil now, again, still moving up the charts. Every time I've looked at him now, he's been just chipping a little bit away at Alessandrini. Now 0.17 seconds behind Alessandrini now the time. So it's very close between these two guys, and 0.3 to the next driver. So I think it's definitely going to come down to between Hasil and Alessandrini, as it has been in the MX-5 class. These guys have had a bunch of battles in the first two races, both at Summit Point and at Mid-Ohio last week. So I think it's definitely going to come between these two drivers here tonight of who's going to take the win. Here's a driver we haven't talked about yet, Greg Obadiah. I believe I'm saying that right, in the 66 Mercedes. He's currently qualified in 9th, and is only 17 thousandths of a second behind Khalil Nachirbov. And that's an incredible difference here at a road course. And even more impressive behind him, the 18 of Devin Taylor, 5 thousandths of a second behind Obadiah. And you kind of wonder yourself as a driver, if you can even where you can try to make up that just a little bit extra. And you can see the 18 going out, probably trying to get that a little extra few thousandths of a second so you can gain one position on the grid. Oh, and Hasil now gonna take provisional pole here in the late stages of qualifying by a solid 10th of a second here. So you see Alessandrini, he's currently, I believe he's on his outlap right now. He wasn't, I believe, in the pit, so we'll see him come back out here, trying to put a lap down. Should have enough time to put in a lap or two here, so we'll see if he has the speed. So as Alessandrini crosses the line, let's take a ride on board here with the Audi. And there you see into turn 1. That's a very difficult spot to try to just navigate through, let alone trying to race someone through. You can hit the wall on the inside. Here we go, up into turn 2. It's another little tight section. You got to set it yourself up here for a run down this curve straightaway into the hairpin. It's a long straightaway again. Another very prime passing opportunity presenting itself up here. And then onto the curves. And another thing too in qualifying, especially, you want to make sure don't get an off track here. It can disqualify your time, and you have to go around the complete another time. And again, 2-minute laps here, so you can't afford to make too many mistakes here.
Nice lap, Ken. Congrats on pole.
Sorry, I need to make a small correction there. We're back here, and so Alessandrini pulled off the track, and so is Hasil, so they're not going to be able to get back out and put a time down. So they are effectively happy with where they have qualified, and it seems most people have only really notable guys who are out there at the moment Is Idle Walksman now? He's coming down Sunset. He's one of the highest guys up here. I think about 7 or 8 cars are still on track, putting a time down. So again, long qualifying session for these guys, and most of them still currently happy with their time. I thought some guys might try to put in one final time here, trying to just give it their all, but it seems a lot of these guys are happy, feel like they can't really get much out of the cars. So here we're looking at the 18 of Devin Taylor here, and this is one of the times that I'm actually interested in seeing. Get 0.005 of a second behind the 66 of Greg Obadiah. And if he can just gain a hundredth, anything would really help him out here. It's that close time-wise here, especially at a road course that's a very, very small time. Even at ovals, it's a small time. So you see Taylor now coming. He's going to round Sunset a little bit loose here. And, oh, he's going to spin out, and that's definitely going to cost him a lot of time. So he's not going to be able to improve. Checkered flag is going to be out in the air here. These guys have 3 more minutes to finish their laps up if they've crossed the line. So here's Greg Obadiah now. He started this lap. And is now trying to finish it. So again, he's 17,000 of a second behind Natirbov in the 19. So if he can just get that little bit more, if he can get 200ths of a second, that'll move him up into 8th place. Obadiah here, heavy braking zone coming up. And you're going to see, just by looking at the pavement, how rubbered up it is with guys under braking. So that's going to be a little bit grippy through those sections there compared to the parts of the track where it's not as rubbered in, not as dark. So that's really going to be important for these guys throughout the race. And it's definitely going to get significantly darker as time goes on. You can see using up all the curb and then some. And here comes Obadiah. He's going to round out on the back straightaway here. And again, has very little time to make up, but any mistake can cost him dearly. And out of the final corner, here comes the 66. Across the line he goes. Did he improve? Yes, he did. And by a significant margin to 4,000ths over Natirbov. So solid job by the 66 to put in a final effort. Really didn't have to go as fast as he did. Still put in a solid time there. So that will round out qualifying. So you can see there on your left as the timer is wrapping up. There's a few drivers still running out on the track. But I believe all of them are pretty much just still running out there. You see the 92 is still outside. He might be putting on a lap. I don't think so. I believe Don Manning should be done. He will round out the grid here. And I believe we do have someone else that's joined the 22, Anthony Carbone Jr. He will round out this 22 car field now in GT3. So you see the 92. Oh, I guess looks like he's gonna end his session in the wall there. And everyone has qualified there, so you can see on the left of your screen how Seald's gonna take provisional pole, or pretty much pole at this point with the final 10 seconds in the session. Allison Drini is gonna qualify in second, 97 in third, Bartlett in fourth, Alessi fifth, Fitzgerald sixth, Walksman seventh, Obadiah 8th, Natirbov 9th, and Taylor rounding out your top 10 here. 3 seconds between the top 10. So a decent amount of gaps in on the times. So right now we're getting ready to get these guys gridded. And get ready to go here. 45 minutes here on the clock for Sebring. These guys are going to have to make a pit stop at some point. I would imagine probably midway through the race. Here, there's not really any point in kind of trying to do an overcut towards the end. You might see these guys pretty much cut it in half. So around 22-25 minutes, we're going to start seeing guys make their trips down pit road for pit stops. but it's pretty much a sprint race here. So not a lot. These guys can't afford to lose a lot of time. They got to keep close to the guys that they're racing with, and any slip up can really cost you dearly. So while these guys are getting lined up, let's take a look here at just kind of the diversity of the field. Well, it's a slightly bit lacking as, again, like I said, a lot of drivers have opted for the Mercedes, or it seems also the Audi or BMW. I believe there's only one McLaren, that is the 22. No, sorry, that's not the 22. That is, trying to see who that is down the grid. Oh, that is Don Manning in the 92 Gulf McLaren, the lone McLaren in the field. And as these guys roll off, let's get you your starting lineup here. Now, Alessandro is actually going to pull off to the side here, but there you see these guys ticking by. There's Kenneth Halcyon is going to start on pole. Alessandrini would start in second, although he's pulled off to the track to the back, and that grid did not want to work. Let's try that again. Sticker not wanting to cooperate, so Kenneth Halcyon put in a solid time. There we go. The 97 of Kevin Furlan. I still think I'm saying that wrong. Then Dennis Barrett in the 83 in fourth. Moving back to row number 3, Louis Alessi in the 43 BMW. Outside of him in sixth will be Dave Fitzgerald, also in a BMW in sixth. Moving back to row number 4, Otto Walksman is going to be in the number 4 Mercedes AMG. Outside of him in the 66 will be Greg Obadiah in another Mercedes in 8th. Moving on to 9th, Khalil Natirbov in the 19 Ferrari. And his sister Ferrari is going to be on the outside of him in the 18 of Devin Taylor. Moving back to 11th, Chris Harp in the 2 Mercedes. In 12th will be Francois Breu in the Mercedes 69. Moving back to 13 will be Stefan Ott in the 16. 14th will be John Sainz in the 195.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Kyle, there you are.
Hey.
All right, hi, everybody. Welcome to Sim TV, and I apologize for jumping in a little late here. Under the weather this evening as Finian's taken over and done a great job so far. But, well, better late than never, huh?
Yeah, definitely better late than never indeed, Kyle. So we're getting these guys gridded up, and you did join at the perfect time. We're just about to go green here.
Do you want to jump over to commentary box there, Finian?
I think it's better if we do it here for now.
Okay.
So as these guys are just about to get through the pace lap, I gotta ask you, Kyle, what are some of the challenges these guys have to expect here at Sebring?
Well, Sebring is known as one of the bumpiest racetracks in American road racing here, Finian, especially turn 17. It's where they're about to be heading down to right now as we get towards the green flag. But a lot of bumps here at Sebring, very flat, not a lot of elevation change, so drivers will be fighting visibility through the corners, especially racing in packs.
Yeah, you can see these guys now on to Sunset Bend here. Or sorry, not to Sunset, heading towards Sunset Bend on the back straightaway. And all getting lined up.
That back straightaway, extremely important. Drafting down that straightaway is going to give you a passing opportunity, but you don't want to get your nose in there too far if you're not in a passing position, because you will cause wrecks down there in Sunset Bend.
Yeah, definitely there's a shot at that happening indeed, as you see now everyone getting ready to line up here. 22 cars here at Sebring. They're going to round out of Sunset. And Kyle, if you want to take this away.
I don't have iRacing up quite yet, Phineas.
Oh, you don't know? Yeah, I thought you did. All right, nope. So I will do that. All right.
I do now, actually, but just give me 1 second. You can call it.
Yeah, definitely I will indeed. There you see everyone lining out of Sunset Bend now, heading towards the green flag. And there these guys go. Green flag in the air here at Sebring.
And 45 minutes underway as they head down towards turn 1. A flat left-hand corner. There's a wall on the left. Don't get yourself in. We're 4-5 wide down into the first corner.
See a lot of drivers fanning out for position. Halcyon's actually lost the lead here. And that's the 97 that he's racing down into turn 2.
And it looks like the 2 BMWs have gotten away without too much incident. Behind them, trouble. We got one around. It's Chip Miller in the 14. He was slow for a moment, but looks like everyone else has gotten sorted out. But Dennis Barrett in the 83 spun out in turn 2.
And you can see a lot of carnage here just on how tight the racetrack is. And it looks like now everyone's pretty much fanned out, but not after a lot of carnage that's occurred.
Yeah, the problem with Sebring, Finian, is that it's very narrow between the curbs, and the curbs are so tall here that they will upset these GT3 cars. They're not built to take curbs like maybe the Ford Mustang that we normally race here in the VirtualMARRS series.
And you see now we're looking on board with the 191 of DJ Alessandrini here. Very fast driver. Actually qualified a little bit. He qualified up front. I thought he was gonna miss the initial start here. Pulled off the track, came back up. He's currently in third here, but he was very fast in qualifying and showing to have some speed here.
And Alessandrini always a threat to win these races here, but different kind of category racing here tonight with the GT3 cars. Not what Alessandrini's used to racing, so could take him off of his normal cruising speed. But so far, P3 for that number 191.
So we can see that these guys are kind of broken away from the rest of the field, and actually Alessandrini's catching up to the 97.
We have a spin in 21st. Steve Salisbury in the 32 car has gone off, and that's over on the far side of the course, but harmless spin there, and looks like it might have just been by himself, but I'll check that out there, Finian. And actually had the 83, Dennis Barrett, get underneath him 3 wide into the corner, and it's what caused a little bit of an awkward situation. The 32 just got out wide and looped it on the curbing on exit. Contact with the 43 as well, Louis Alessi, out of the race already.
Yeah, it's unfortunate to see some carnage taking the better of some of these drivers and some of them already being out.
We're working our way down that long back straightaway now. House Seal out by 9/10 of a second. Almost broke in the draft, but again, we know how strong it is here, especially in these big GT3 cars. They got a huge wing displacing a lot of air, but there's a Mercedes heading down into the corner. That's going to be Francois Brou in the number 69 trying to hold off Stephen Ott. And it looks like it was Brou that in the Mercedes there.
Kyle, are you live with the thing?
No,
that?
Thank you.
Okay, I was gonna say because when you're saying on the backstretch, they're in turn 2.
I have to remember to go back live after watching a replay. I'm not used to being on this end of things.
Yeah,
but anyway, that did happen.
Yeah, a little bit of a mix-up here. I'm the one doing the directing here, and Kyle's kind of just watching, filling in the commentary. But notably here, that 97 191, they're getting a little bit closer to each other.
Yeah, I see Alessandrini starting to put pressure on Kevin Furley there in that number 97. And, of course, that Audi typically very stable at high speed and through the higher speed sections, and the S is coming up here in about a quarter of a lap. That Audi is going to excel.
And you can see that Alessandrini get very close there. Had to back off a little bit off the 97. And he's going to potentially mount a charge like you were saying here.
So we're about almost 5 minutes into this race already, and we kind of have Hausil beginning to drive away now, 1.8 seconds up the road from the 97, and DJ Alessandrini going to be in a position to make a move here. He's going to have the slipstream down into Sunset Bend. Will he take a look? Here he comes to the inside.
And there he goes. He's going to try to have to outbrake the 97, and there they go side by side into Sunset.
Oh, we got one spun over there. The S is there, Finian. The 51 of Eric Jones spun around. He'll get back going. But he spun in front of Devin Taylor and Don Manning, who just passed him. And again, I believe that's Manning in the number 92. That's the lone McLaren in the field. And Gulf paint scheme on that car this week.
Yeah, Manning able to move himself up a few positions. Started in 21st. He's up now into 18th.
Alessandrini was not able to complete that pass on the 97, Finian, but still trying to work him over. So we head now towards turn 2, 3, and 4. This is a very narrow complex with a lot of tall curbs. And the Audi does not like curbs. The BMW a little bit more forgiving with that front engine layout.
And we're riding on board with the gyro camera, and you can kind of just see how much the car is shaking around here, just how bumpy this racetrack is. And you see the 191 there, looks up to the inside, doesn't get the move done here in the hairpin.
Yeah, I think a lot of that's just poking the nose out just to get out of the mirror of the guy in front of you. It's very distracting to be mirror driving these race cars. When the guy behind you pokes out, you don't know where he goes, so you're going to drive a little bit more cautiously. And I think the 191 putting all this pressure on the 97, but Kenneth Hausil continues to drive away 3 seconds up the road. Here comes the 191 down to the inside. He'll take that pass, but no, goes wide, and the 97 gets back by him.
Yeah, and try to do an out-braking maneuver there, and it's already a heavy braking zone nonetheless, so 191 trying to get a little bit, Alessandrini getting a little bit desperate there for that maneuver, and it's cost him a lot of time. And here comes the 4 of Otto Walksman here, and he's got Dave Fitzgerald right up his bumper, so very close battle here for the top 5.
And Fitzgerald was extremely quick in practice earlier this week. Really found a groove in that BMW machine. We see a lot of BMWs and Mercedes here today. And again, those big, heavy German machines, very good at a track like Sebring. And Dave Fitzgerald continues to move his way forward right now on the back end of that 4.
And this is one of the closest battles on the racetrack now. A lot of people have spread out, as you typically expect for these kind of cars. This is not really the ones that you expect to see side-by-side action the entire way through.
And it becomes again, this is a sprint style race here, Finian, but what these guys are going to try to do is start to plan out the maneuvers. You see the 91 hit those bumps viciously in turn 17, Sunset Bend, and now looking for a pass on the 4. But this is a strategical race here, Finian. We got one in the wall. It's the 19, a clear and Tierboff there, Finian, bouncing off the tire barriers in the exit of turn 17.
See if we can try to catch a replay.
Yeah, not.
Alright, so here we're looking on with 19 there. You see, yeah, big scrape, and also behind him too. Is that, trying to see who that was. That was a 2 of Chris Harpy, got a nice piece of the wall there as well.
And checking back live, Khalil Tierboff and actually clears him heading down into the hairpin, but no, here comes the Khalil back to the inside, slow into the hairpin. Very awkward situation there, and there's a 16 of Stephen Ott. He wants to get by both these cars.
Yeah, caught that back at the perfect timing there to see that happen. They're still side by side here. Heavy braking zone coming. Will Tierboff try the same thing again?
Doesn't look like it, but you see Stephen Ott getting a little bit impatient. I just butchered that name. Never mind. I'll come back in a minute.
There's Stephen Ott going inside of Tierboff, and now he's under attack by the 22 of Anthony Carbone Jr. And the 22 also, notably, I believe he started in last. So he's done a fantastic job. He started in 22nd all the way up to 11th, and we're not even 10 minutes through this race. So he's done a solid job just keeping out of everything and moving up slowly through the field.
And lapping significantly quicker than the cars around him. Ott and Tierboff about 2 seconds off the pace last time through. So that 22 car moving forward, as you mentioned, Finian. Wow, whoa. Look how wide the 16 car went there, Finian.
And I think that was just him getting on the curbs, getting the car upset, trying to chase it back, was able to get it back. But he's now under attack. Here comes the 22. Does he make a look into Sunset?
That's a long straightaway to plan this move. You see him now looking deep on the brakes, trying to use that ABS to their advantage. Here comes the 16 to the inside of the 19, just up ahead. Trying to make this move as they come out of Sunset Bend. Got to get that power down without spinning those rear tires on the bumps.
Riding on board with the 16, seeing him get the run on the 19 and Tierboff. There he goes, looks up the inside. Looks like Tierboff's going to back out and give him the position.
Look at the 22 though, Finian, to the inside, had to back out of it. Didn't want to get turned into, but the 16 and the 19 continue to battle. Here comes Anthony Carbone Jr. down to the inside to get by Tierboff. Almost some door contact there down into turn 2. Side by side, that'll be for 9th place.
Oh, and a little bit of dooring action there as it came off of 2. And it looks like that's going to keep Tierboff ahead of Carbone. And Carbone's going to have to try to mount another run on the 19. Notably up ahead, we got a battle brewing between Dave Fitzgerald and Otto Walksman.
And here comes Fitzgerald down to the inside. Can he out-brake? Again, using that anti-lock braking system to their advantage. A lot of drivers like it. A lot of drivers hate it, Finian. But it'll give you one thing. It gives you a lot more control on the limit. And that's what Fitzgerald is trying to take advantage of. But just up ahead of these guys, while we watch them battle, Alessandrini is caught back up to the number 97 of Kevin Furline and is looking for a pass now, 2/10 back.
And this is another kind of battle. This is another battle in the works here. Round 2 here between these two drivers.
And we saw how it worked out last time. The 191 kind of sent it up the inside, couldn't make it stick. And Alessandrini had to give that spot back to Kevin, and now they're trying to take it back away.
Riding on board the back bumper there, you can see Alessandrini trying to mount a draft down towards Sunset Bend here on the back straightaway. You see him start to really close up towards the end of the straightaway.
Through Sunset. See Alessandrini, much tighter line through there.
Yeah,
much closer to the wall.
Almost hit the wall, and you see him wider line on exit as well.
Yeah, Sunset, you can take that corner several different ways. A lot of drivers like to run right next to the wall to get the short way around, but the farther you go from the wall, the less bumpy it is. So some drivers, that BMW that Kevin Furling's driving might not be set up quite as well for the bumps as that 191 is. And these guys are running open sets as usual here this week. So a lot of different tweaks you can run. You see the 97 run a little bit wide there in turn 2, and that's let Alessandrini catch right back up, forces his issue up the outside, takes a look, can't get it done.
And you see Alessandrini trying to take every opportunity there through the grass. Lost a lot of time now. He's going to lose a lot of momentum also down this straightaway. And Furling's going to be able to just put a nice solid half a second gap between these two.
I don't think it's going to last for too long here, Finian. But speaking of issues, we got the 19 of Cleveland Tierboff on pit lane. Finian, the number 19 car back in 17th, probably fixing crash damage most likely as the rest of the field works their way around.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for him. He could potentially be making a fuel stop here. I kind of doubt it. So it seems a little bit early, in my opinion, to be making that kind of stop. So he's going to come out of pit road here. He's going to be in 18th now.
Yeah, could potentially be doing that just to get out of the way of traffic. And pitting early is something you might want to do if you think you're going to hit a big group of cars. But I don't think Tierboff was close enough to a group to really necessitate that strategical decision. But
oh, and loose off of 2 here, going into the braking zone, and he's going to lose a lot more time now. So it is not going to Tierboff's way here in the 19th, currently in 19th.
Alessandrini beginning to run that 97 back down. We've mentioned this a bunch of times. I definitely think the 191 is faster, but the last time we were in turns 2, 3, and 4, he forced the issue quicker than he needed to, and it lost him all that ground back. So he's going to have to be a little bit more patient here and plan this out a little bit more carefully if he wants to get by this 97. Down the front straightaway now, second and third battling, 0.2 of a second separate them. Waxman and Fitzgerald behind about 5 or 6 seconds, but Fitzgerald close as well, looking at the rear bumper of that number 4 Mercedes. Very different lines into turn 1 for those two.
Yeah, there's a 4-0. He's going to go wide here on the curbs. Here comes Fitzgerald up the inside.
Down into turn 2. Big, tall curbs. Can Fitzgerald get around him? He does. The number 4 relinquishes that spot. And we head back up. Look at Furling and Alessandrini, Finian dogging each other, heading down to the hairpin.
Oh, and this is going to be a great pass opportunity. There goes the 191 into the inside. No, he doesn't. And 97's going to outbrake him in there.
Well, we've seen Alessandrini fake that move a couple times here so far. Doesn't really like that as a passing opportunity, partially because the corner's so tight. You have to really woe the car down to make that pass on the inside, and it bogs the engines down, even in first and second gear. So Alessandrini picking a higher momentum part of the racetrack to make this pass.
And you see him taking a tighter line there, side by side with the 97. 97's got the preferred line there through this complex.
Yeah, the 97 misses apex in the last corner and has been missing several of them. There he hits it nicely, but even if you're off the apex by 1.5 to 2 feet, it'll really throw off the handling of the race car, especially at Sebring where there's so many bumps that have kind of worn their way in over the years. So if you miss your apex by 6-7 inches, it's going to be all over. Alessandrini closes in the S's now, open over the curbs. Got to be careful. You can see how sharp the backside of those curbs is. It'll drag the bottom of the car if you go over them too far.
Yeah, I was riding on board with the gearbox, and there you see huge run from the 197. Wow! As I head onto the straightaway here. And they're going to be drag racing down. It looks like it's going to be Alessandrini's here.
And, yeah, looks like the 97 Kevin Furling kind of gave that spot up. And got real loose on exit, and the 191 just got a much better line. Actually forces, looking back at it, Finian, drove off the end of the curb over the white line. So I think that was the 97 signal just to let him go on by. A very aggressive pass. And I'm sure if the race stewards were watching that, they would probably say that was a kind of a naughty pass on Alessandrini's part, but he got it done.
Yeah, and notably too, but he's got a long ways to go though in this race. 7 seconds to chase down Kenneth Lucille, who we have not talked about since the green flag drop. The man has just driven away from the rest of the field now. Like we said, 7-second lead over Alessandrini, so he's sitting pretty comfortable so far. Let's check back in with a 22 of Anthony Carbone Jr. He's currently riding in 9th, trying to chase down Dennis Bartlett in the 83. Oh, sorry, Barrett.
Yeah, Barrett was actually spun out on the opening lap of this race, Finian, and has managed to climb his way back through, running pretty competitive lap times. He's actually running about the third or fourth best time of all the drivers on the racetrack right now, a 2:03.8 last time through, which would be good enough for third place right now if this was a qualifying session. So Barrett climbing his way forward after a rough start in that 83 car.
Yeah, like you said, it has some pace in this 83 Mercedes. So if he can he's trying to track down now the 69 of Francois Brou ahead of him in seventh. And if he can get that, he'll start to move up the ladder more. And also, I was gonna ask you too, as far as strategy is concerned. Maybe these guys potentially trying to pit what we thought the 19 was doing, trying to get out of dirty air, just get out of the air around the cars around you, trying to get yourself some clean air to work with. Do you think that's gonna factor into these guys' decisions when to pit?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. These cars aren't quite as aero sensitive as open wheel cars, so the aero push here, especially this track isn't really a downforce track per se, so I don't know if that'll factor in so much as it will just slower traffic in general. Maybe not so much from the aero component, but I think drivers will definitely take into account when they're going to catch slower cars and even lap cars to make their move forward. I'm looking at the track map, Finny, and we got a pretty good spread. The last car in front of the 23 is clearing the Tierboff, working his way around the far side of the course, and it looks like Seal is now working his way through the turn 3 and 4 complex. So about a quarter of a lap between Seal and some lap traffic, which will certainly factor into his decision as well.
Currently riding on board with Otto Walkman in fifth place at the moment. Still behind Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald actually starting to distance himself from the 4 car. So Fitzgerald showing that he's got a little bit faster of a car here, and potentially has a chance of falling into the clutches of Greg Obadiah, I believe that is how I should say it, in the 66.
I think it was Obadia, but I could be wrong about that. I'm afraid to pronounce it because I'm not sure. I'll let you take care of that.
All right, I'm just gonna call him the 66. But yeah, he's been quietly sitting in 6th place. Funnily enough, kind of biding his time here behind the top 5 here. So he's been really quiet. Has a shot at getting Walksman, but I kind of doubt it at his current pace.
Alessandrini has not really been able to eat into that lead a whole lot. Running faster laps, but the gap is still 7.2 seconds. There's still about 27 minutes remaining in this race, so kind of a long way to go here. Alessandrini now using the draft off of a slower car to try to get a better run. I'm trying to see what car that was. That was the 43 of Louis Alessi.
Yeah, Alessi all the way back in 19th. Started in 5th, so ran into some trouble early on in this race. Might have actually also come down pit road potentially. I don't really see a mark on that car, so he could have also made his pit stop. Although actually looking at his pit stop delta, it was a 2 minute 20-second pit lane delta, so I think he's definitely in there fixing some damage. So not the best start for the 43. Probably hope for some better.
They're on the racetrack. Battle for 7th beginning to heat up. Francois Brou chasing down Dennis Barrett. The gap is 0.8 of a second, but Brou really struggling with that damage on the front of that Mercedes, and might be actually slipping back from this battle.
Oh,
yeah,
no.
I'd like to. Oh, I was gonna say I'd like to talk to Dominic about the differences between driving a GT3 car around a circuit like this versus a slower class car. Again, we have the Daytona 2.4 coming up here in a couple weeks, Finian. So I'd like to jump over there and ask him about what he thinks the differences are in terms of racecraft around here.
I was actually having trouble getting in contact with him early in the race. That's why I ended up...
I'll go jump over there and talk real quick. I'll be right back.
All right, so while Kyle does that right here, notably, Walksman has actually fallen behind the 66 of Greg, and kind of curious of what happened there. So we're gonna just take a chance to look at the replay from this. Might have to go back a decent amount to try to find this. Alright, so I'm not able to find it at the moment where this incident happened, so I'm just going to keep on board watching the 4 here. But yeah, so the 66 has now moved up into the top 5. And we'll continue on trying to chase down Dave Fitzgerald. He's got 5 seconds behind him to do so. So he's got a tall order to make up here. So decent amount of spread between our field here. Hausil leading by 7.6 seconds now over Allison Drini, slowly expanding that gap every single lap. These guys are so close. Last time by, they were separated by 18 thousandths of a second in favor of Hausil. So,
sorry, I managed to grab Dominic there. He has a new headset here this week, which is why he was having issues contacting earlier. So, if you want to jump over there, we can ask him about how the GT3 cars differ. So let's jump over there, Finian. All right, there we go. So now we're all here. But, Finian, as I was saying, I wanted to ask Dominic about GT3 machinery here, Finian, because we're normally used to driving a lot slower cars, a lot less power, Dominic. But when you move to a GT3 machine, does the racecraft change when you have more power and downforce, or is it the same principles just at a higher speed?
Because I think in this case, the GT3 machinery, unlike the Ford Mustangs and the Miatas, are not going to be as draft dependent, so they make up a lot of that with the raw power. So I think what you're going to be seeing is drivers trying to be a lot smoother, because even though all these cars are on the full Pirelli slick, you can basically run them hard, but you have to be a lot smoother. And so basically you're going to see a lot more, I think, conservation in the beginning and then pushing at the end as they try to conserve their tires and their equipment.
And as we watch battle for now 11th, Finian, Stephen Ott and Devin Taylor close together, the 16 and the 18. We mentioned slick racing tires. Now, that might seem like a normal thing for a lot of racing series, but coming from guys that are typically racing on street tires, that's got to change how these cars are raced as well. You mentioned the higher grip level as Stephen Ott lets the 18 drive on by, Dominic, but also, what about warming up the tires after you put into a fresh set on? The slicks, a lot warmer, or a lot stickier compound, but also take some time to get up to temperature.
Absolutely the case, and especially on the opening laps, and if they get the chance, they're going to be trying to build as much tires, and then in the event of a caution, that allows the tires to cool, and then from there you have, once the tire gets cool again, you have to take time to get it back up to temperature. So, you know, slicks have the advantage of, you can run them a little bit harder than you can maybe a DOT approved tire, but at the same time, you have the challenge of trying to keep it under you and having the degrading towards the end of the session.
And we've got a battle for 8th now on the racetrack, Finian. The 8th place, the number 69 of Francois Brou, and the 22 of Anthony Carbone Jr.
Oh,
to the contact. And around goes the 69, and they both make contact again. And the 69 off the racetrack, heavily damaged. And there was some drama there, Finian.
Yeah, let's see if we can catch a replay of that incident. Alright, so here we're looking now at these guys racing down towards turn 1 here. And they see the 22 just jump out of line, goes to the inside.
Yeah, this is a tricky one, because the 69 did kind of turn across the nose of the 22 there a little bit, in my opinion there, Finian.
And let's try to catch another angle of that with the 22s on board. Alright, so here are these guys now racing towards turn 1. See the 22 jump out of line there to the inside of the 69.
I think he just turns across his nose. I don't know if he didn't expect him to be there or expect him to back out, but just kind of turns across the nose, and that's what caused that issue there. I don't think they're going to agree on that, though, even after watching the replay.
Yeah, we'd probably have to call it more of a racing incident, and if anything, probably more on the 69's fault. Could have given because the 22 really didn't have much else to go other than into the wall, so he's kind of pinched in there. So 69 could have probably given him some more room. Again, kind of a racing incident just due to the nature of that corner.
Yeah, and again, we talked about that turn 1 being such a flat complex, Finian, and that doesn't leave you a lot of room if you slide the front tires. But the 22 is holding a pretty steady wheel there down in turn 1, and the question now becomes, did he establish his line before entering the corner? And I would agree that he was there. It was a little bit of a late move, but he was there, in my opinion, and then I think the 69 has to leave that 22 some room on the inside.
Yeah, what that kind of reminds me of was what happened, I believe it was No, it was last year in the Rolex 24 for the win between the DPs. Yeah, that similar incident happened with the door being left open. Someone went to take it and it closed up in there tight. So
it was the Action Express car, I believe, along with the 10 of Ricky Taylor. So those were the two cars involved in that. But here tonight, the 69 and the 22 having a little spat. Meanwhile, back in 14th, 15th, excuse me, Chip Miller and Louis Alessi battling for some positions, about a half second apart. This is a little ways back, but still battling for position.
Yeah, these guys, you see the 43 jump on the curves. They're trying to get this car to rotate, really using up everything. You probably definitely like his strategy of driving, using up the curbs.
Hey, I love using up curbs, but that's a very tricky one to use. He really kind of mounted up, and that's a curb on entry. Now, not a lot of racetracks feature curbs on the outside prior to corner entry and turn-in, but Sebring is one of the tracks that has a few corners that have that. Now, the advantage to using those is you can kind of get the car as far left as you possibly can. You can drive right up to the edge of the racetrack. A lot of times you'll just hit grass, and that's no fun. But here at Sebring, the curbs are so tall that it's very unsettling to the car and potentially can reduce your braking performance.
There you see the 14 of Chip Miller. He's going to surrender that position to Alessi. Alessi's going to move up into 15th, trying to recover after early problems here, Alessi. So up to 15th, started in 5th. So some sort of silver lining there. As you see, Fitzgerald right ahead, come down pit road, coming in from 4th. So one of our first drivers, notably up towards the front of the field, coming down to make their pit stop.
I love the pit limiter lights in the BMW.
Yeah, it does look really awesome.
So Fitzgerald pits from 4th, and we'll see where he pops out through all this here, Finian. And again, pit stops underway. At least, actually, the majority of the rear half of the field has already pitted and should be able to make it to the end from where they did. Again, 60% fuel load here. Again, we only have about 12 minutes left in this race, so we're getting down to it. So Fitzgerald on pit lane now.
Actually, we have 17 minutes and 30 seconds.
Oh, you can tell me how awful my math is.
Yeah, no, I think it's probably because the elapsed time is more than the actual race time because of the pace limit.
Oh,
yeah,
that's why.
Yeah, I remember having that issue from my end.
Well, I should be looking at ATVO, but I'm not. I'm looking at the sim, so that's why. So Fitzgerald out, in and out in 35 seconds. So he's 35 seconds back from where he was when he pitted. So we'll keep an eye on Hausil and Alessandrini. Again, that distance between them still 7.5 seconds. So Alessandrini unable to make a dent in Hausil's lead. And this is something I think I expected walking in here. Alessandrini is very fast here this week, but not quite as fast as he is in the Mazda MX-5. So a little bit unfamiliar territory for DJ this week. And Hausil is running away with it right now.
Yeah, what I find quite interesting, notably too, is that Alessandrini and Hausil have been pretty much identical in their lap times. They've been kind of swapping back and forth within about a 10th of each other. So I think if Alessandrini was able to get ahead of the 97 and not have to race him, he would definitely be further up the grid, or sorry, further closer to the 23 distance-wise, and potentially fighting for the win with him. But he has not been able to make really any dents into that lead. If anything, it's been slowly getting away from him. So I don't think Alessandrini is really going to be able to just chase that time down. He's pretty on pace with the 23, and I think that might be where he stays.
Don Manning in pit lane now, and then number 92 McLaren. Again, that's a very risky choice for a bumpy racetrack, Finny. And everyone knows the McLaren, one of the iciest, sketchiest cars to drive within the iRacing simulation service, and Manning is toughing it out there right now in that number 92, and I believe he's got a little bit of damage to show for it. He's been, I can't really tell, honestly.
Yeah, I'm not entirely seeing some damage, but potentially it has been. It's been a little bit rough towards the back of the field. I'm
just blind as well. I'm blind and can't talk tonight, so his car is nice and pristine looking, is Don Manning.
Well, there's a 66 coming down pit road. Notably took position away from Walksman in the 4. I believe the 4 might have made a mistake on the track. 66 was able to drive around him, so quick pit stop for the 66 as well, notably. So he's going to come in, he's going to come out, splash of fuel.
And a 35-second stop for Greg, and compare that with Dave Fitzgerald, who had a 35.4, so pretty much identical times here. So same fuel loads being put on board there as well.
He's not doing.
All right, so we're continuing to watch now, trying to keep an eye on the gaps here.
Yeah, I'm pretty spread out between these guys. So really, it's gonna kind of come down to really trying to drive up that remaining gap between a lot of these drivers, because you can't really take tires. It's kind of a death sentence here time-wise. These guys really just coming in for a splash of fuel and getting on their merry way. So you're really only going to potentially make up a lot of time by just kind of driving up there and just driving your hardest.
Yeah, so now we're working lap number... what lap we're on? Lap number 15 for the lead cars, and Halcyon now up to a 7.7 second lead.
And again, man, haven't talked pretty much enough about this 23. It's been putting on a clinic tonight. Hasn't done anything too exciting except leading the race, but it's been really quiet out here. There's almost no cars around him, and he's just been putting on a show. Now, just again, tenth of a second faster than Alessandrini last time by. So it's really not looking in that 191's favor anymore.
And here's the thing about Kenneth Halcyon. We've talked about him in the Mazda's Finian, but this guy, the skills are directly transferable from car to car. Now, within the iRacing simulation service, I'm probably going to catch a lot of flack for this opinion, but there's a lot of talk about the iRating per car scenario, and this is where I would probably disagree with that, because you got a guy like Kenneth Halcyon walking in with lots of racing experience in low-powered cars. He can jump right into a GT3 with a little bit of practice and be leading this race, keeping it on track, and just putting an absolute clinic on here. So the skills are transferable, in my opinion. It's just it takes a little bit of time to get used to the different power and downforce level, and you drive the cars a little bit differently. But Halcyon again proving that even if you drive Mazdas for a living, a little bit of practice and the same scenarios, the same way you drive a race car, slow in, fast out, carrying speed momentum, Halcyon's showing how that's done.
I was going to say, you actually pretty much experienced that kind of scenario. You were in a MX-5 race with Lando Norris, and he completely kicked your ass.
Yeah. Well, and it goes backwards, too. I mean, Lando Norris, again, very well known for driving Formula race cars over in Europe, and is actually going to be moving up to Formula 1 next year. And again, I've had the opportunity to race with him in the iRacing service, and his skills directly transfer straight to the Mazda. Again, it's very different cars. I mean, the F1 car has upwards of 850 horsepower and weighs less than, you know, my bed does, and he can jump into a 100 horsepower Mazda and kick everyone's butt. I mean, it's about race car drivers are race car drivers, and I don't care if you put them in a tractor, a tricycle, or an F1 car. Their skills will carry over.
Yeah, definitely.
You could probably put him in a boat, and he'd probably still beat everybody.
Boats confirmed.
Yeah, boats confirmed.
for iRacing. That would be interesting. But yeah, again,
Kevin Furlane on pit lane, the number 97 Finian from third place.
And again, this is kind of interesting to see now. Where does he pop up? Shouldn't be too much different, really, compared to his competitors, unless he has a slower pit road. And it's kind of hard to mess that up here. So he's going to come in to his pit stall, slowly roll in.
Well, again, I don't think he can make up the time that he lost earlier, but the later you come, the less fuel load you can take, Finian. So that's an advantage to the guys that pit later. And honestly, none of these guys are taking tires, but if they were taking tires, honestly, keeping the old ones on, not a bad idea, because you want the tires warm, and fresh tires are cold tires, and that means slow. Actually a little bit longer stop for the 97, 37 through the lane, and 12.9 in the box. So Fitzgerald actually took less fuel and less time, and it was actually, you see Fitzgerald now coming right behind him about 3 seconds back. So Dave Fitzgerald now in 6th place, trying to move forward, still a couple cars yet to pit.
Yeah, he's got about 6 or so laps to go, so Fitzgerald has a shot of potentially trying to catch Furlane, but it's going to be a tall order, I think, for that 91. That's a pretty big delta to make up. Now down to 2.5, so actually, I don't know. Looks like he might actually have a shot here.
Stephen Ott in pit lane from 10th spot on the grid, so 16th. Or, excuse me, the number 16 car in pit lane getting his service. We'll see how long it takes him to come out. 28 seconds, see if he pops out. And about 35 is what we've been seeing, but does he short fuel at all? A little bit, but, well, no, not quite.
He's going to lose a lot of time.
Yeah, longer trip down pit lane than I expected, so. Kenneth Halcyon coming down pit lane, Finian from the lead, and look who follows him down.
And Alessandrini will follow him down as well, and again, shouldn't see too big of a shake-up here. But unless they make some sort of mistake as far as speeding down pit road, on entry, that could really be disastrous.
And again, Halcyon had to be a little bit aggressive coming onto the pit lane, but you know who's being real aggressive is Alessandrini. He's going to push the limits in here, slide in as deep as he can into his box, and accelerate as fast as he can, get up to that limiter. Oh, we see Halcyon already leaving. Does Alessandrini follow too close behind? Waiting, 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 and off he goes. And that might have actually been a lead extension for Halcyon.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah, about a 30, almost a 35 flat for Halcyon on pit road. 36 seconds for Alessandrini. So lost about a second there, and that should reflect on the timing screen shortly. It should be about an 8.5 second now gap between these two drivers.
Well, that's the difference, Finney, is 1 second on pit lane is a lot more seconds on the racetrack, because when you're on the track, you're going a lot faster. So as we see a couple other guys making their pit stops, Dennis Barrett, Otto Waxman, looks like there's still a group now that's already pitted. Devin Taylor in the 18, that Ferrari there has not come to pit lane yet, is the highest running driver to not do so, and will have to with about 8.5 minutes left.
I would say he's going to have to do some next level fuel saving if he wants to try to make it to the end here. But should be, again, like you're saying, make his spit. Oh, you see the Waxman get stuck behind the 22. Or sorry, not the 22. That's 92 of Don Manning.
Yeah, Don Manning again, that lone McLaren out there. Well, we talked about how Seal had about a 7-second lead coming into the pits, and how Alessandrini was a little slow in pit lane, but already that lead has come back down a couple tenths of a second. So Alessandrini's putting the heat to Seal. It's not going to be enough time to get him unless he starts taking seconds out of the lead, but always a potential for a mistake.
I think that's probably what Alessandrini's going to bet on. You can't have a caution to save you here. You can't have really anything really to help save you unless the driver ahead of you makes a mistake, and I doubt someone like the 23 is going to potentially make a mistake. You know you have a 7-second lead, and I'm definitely sure he knows he has such a big lead to work with, and he can start to ease off a little bit, about a second a lap, and he could still cross the line with a decent gap to spare. So I think we might see the 23 start dialing it back here just to make sure that he doesn't make some mistake that can take him out of this race. And notably, too, looking at the lap sheets as well, Alessandrini's, I believe, the second fastest car, Halcyon first. The distance between them, however, is 0.6 of a second between their best lap time. So Halcyon really got some pace here.
Now, notably, the best time Halcyon has put down is a 2:01.730 to Alessandrini's 2:02.3. So that's really, 0.6 of a second. That's a pretty big gap. Halcyon turning on the heat here and going for broke. And again, we've seen him be quick in the Mazdas. We've seen him be quick in the GT3s. That guy's got a lot of talent. Devin Taylor in that Ferrari coming down to pit lane as well. He's the last one other than the 2 of Chris Harp, who has been on pit lane. So Harp in that number 2 car still needs to come. I love the sound of that Mercedes.
Yeah, definitely beautiful sounding. Such a raw sound that is sadly going to leave the American scene soon in a few years with the Corvette. Switching over to a V6, I believe, twin-turbo car.
Oh, is that what they're doing? Oh, no.
Something along those lines. Definitely not a V8, I can tell you that.
Oh, I don't like that. I want engines that sound like hell on earth. Like you open the gate of hell, and that's the V8 that they have. That's the sound I like. I like those big engines.
I'd say sound similar to hell would be the Porsche.
Yeah, well, okay. Thanks you for the impression. I don't know. Part of me hates turbos on modern cars, but I love myself a Group C car with a big turbo on it, spooling up. But they're not as much fun as they used to be.
Yeah, definitely. I can agree with you.
Oh, we got a spin. Sorry to interrupt you there, Finney. And Stephen Ott just spun out there off in turn 1.
See if we can catch a replay of that. And this is a tricky corner. If you take it the wrong way, you can definitely upset your car in such a way where it's going to happen to you.
Yeah, just overcooked it, hit the bumps wrong, and backed it into the wall just a little bit. Not a whole lot of damage on that 16. So Ott will continue. I don't even think he lost 2.
Yeah, so he's going to get it collected, get it going in 11th, trying to finish out this race.
Anyway, back up the lead there, Finney, and Kenneth Halcyon losing a little bit of time. DJ Alessandrini has it under 7 seconds for the first time this whole race, but we're really closing in. When we get back to the line, it'll be 2 laps to go, about. That's a rough estimate. So it's going to take a big mistake by Halcyon now to give Alessandrini a shot.
Yeah, and Alessandrini is making some sort of inroads, but again, he's got to be taking out about now at this point 2 seconds a lap to try to close in that gap. So again, just gonna have to try to settle in here. He's got 22 seconds though to third place driver Kevin Ferlin in the 97. So he's pretty much gonna settle in for second here at this point.
Alessandrini just took a big chunk of curb out in the back of the shot that I was watching. And it's in a spot where you can take some curb, but bounce over it pretty violently and might have lost a tenth or two there. See the track rubbering up pretty heavily and marbles collecting offline. And this race isn't really long enough for that to be a huge factor, but certainly drivers that get offline, as we saw the 16 in turn 1 a couple laps ago, you get offline, that the marbles and other gunk that collects off the racing groove can certainly send you for a loop. And that's a lot bigger of a deal in a downforce car than it is in an MX-5 or a Ford Mustang.
Notably, looking back towards 5th and 6th place, looks like they potentially have a battle brewing here between the 4. The 4 actually is overtaking the 66.
And those pair of Mercedes working their way through. Look at the brake rotors on the number 4, glowing very heavily. I'm not sure if you caught that, Finian, but man, those brakes are working. And these are carbon ceramic brakes, so yes, they're supposed to work in their red hot zones. That's not an abnormal thing to see, but it is abnormal to see during the day at Sebring. Brake rotors during the day, at night for sure, but during the day it's kind of an unusual thing to see in a GT3 car.
Yeah, just caught a nice shot of it as they head towards sunset. Again, using a look at these guys using up all the stopping power, especially in some of these cars which are heavier than others, especially the Mercedes.
Yeah, Mercedes got a lot of grunt to it, but it's also got a lot of weight as well, so it doesn't like to stop as well. And actually, that's Dave Fitzgerald back on pit lane, in short field a little bit too. He's going to run out of fuel and have to come back down. What a shame for Fitzgerald to have that race in hand, at least for the top 5.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. I would say, yeah, like you said, had pretty much, I would say, 4th place, pretty much solid. And now he's going to drop all the way back to potentially 7th, maybe 8th. Depends where the 22 is. Let's see. Oh, there is the 22 coming into frame. And they're going to be side-by-side off pit exit. Got a race potentially here between Fitzgerald and the 22 Carbone here in these closing stages.
I think Fitzgerald will have the pace to get back around the 22, but again, about 2 minutes left in this race, so that's not a whole lot of time. It's going to be one more lap when Halseal gets back around, so Fitzgerald's got to get that car wound up and go chase down that 22.
And here's Halseal on the back straightaway now. Going to go through sunset for the second and last time. Going to come collect the white flag. And what a race from this 23. Again, I haven't talked about him all night, for most of the night. He's just been doing such a good job.
Well, he's been killing it out there. I talked about it earlier, Finney, and the skills just transfer so well from the slower cars to the GT3 machinery, and Halseal absolutely killing it, and he's going to cross that line, and he's got one more time around. We will get the white flag this lap with 1 minute and 15 seconds remaining. All he's got to do is keep that car going the right direction, stay off the curbs, and get back around one more time. Alessandrini, 7 seconds back.
Yeah, we see Alessandrini there. You see the gap visually. The 7 seconds that Alessandrini would have to make up, again, looking very unlikely now at this point. Halseal just really needs to kind of put the car around, just kind of hit his marks and make sure car gets back home in one piece.
An update on Don Manning and that lone McLaren actually crashed that car, Finian, out of the race with only a couple minutes left. So unfortunately for Don Manning, that'll be the end of the night. I'll go back and try to find out what happened.
Yeah, started in 21st. Looks like he's going to potentially finish out in about 16th, it seems. So unfortunate for the 92 of Manning.
And got loose off the exit of turn 1 and packed it into the Armco and destroyed the left front suspension on that car. So that'll be the end of the night for Don.
Meanwhile, here's a quick look at the battle between the 4 and the 66 here. About a little under a second here as they're both taking the white flag. So they're going to be duking it out here. Notably,
Halseal's got about a half a lap left, and he's back down the pace significantly. Alessandrini now 5.9 back. Could Halseal be running out of fuel? Probably not. I think he probably got that all sorted out.
I would say now would be probably the worst time to have that kind of problem. There you see white flag in the air officially. And Halseal's got pretty much one more corner to go now on the back straightaway.
Sunset Bend, it's one of the trickiest corners here at Sebring, Finian, so it's not over yet for Halseal, but he's done 22 laps very well and just got to complete one more. And into Sunset Bend he goes, gets on the binder, slows it down, tucks it in nice and neatly. And out of the final corner, Kenneth Houseel from Mazda's GT3 will win the exhibition race here in the VirtualMARRS series, collects a victory here. And as I was watching that, Finian, Anthony Carbone Jr. and Dave Fitzgerald side by side heading down into the hairpin, door-to-door contact, driving into each other.
Oh.
They're both going to run off track, and the 22 will just bully off Dave Fitzgerald, and he'll drive away.
And that was very aggressive driving. I saw that there on the timing screen. I was waiting to cut to it after Houseel crossed the line. Well, definitely going to take a replay of that because they were battling each other for nearly half a lap there between the 22 and the 91.
Yep.
So I'm kind of curious to see both these drivers' opinions of what just took place there.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the 91 ran him wide into the corner, is trying to outbrake him, but then on corner exit, the 22 gets loose and kind of drives into the door. They get hooked together, and I don't think he meant to run him out wide, but that's what the result was. And
oh, and there's the 83 up the road there, Dennis Barrett. He's out of fuel on the back straightaway. You can see him one corner away trying to limp that Mercedes to the line. And actually, wait, is Fitzgerald out of fuel too? He's out of fuel as well.
He already had to refuel. How did he not refuel the car again?
I think he was trying to save himself position on the track, and this is going to cost him dearly.
Yeah, neither
There's
of those
Chris
cars
Harp down the back straightaway, and he's going to try to take this position from Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald now going under 15 miles an hour.
Is he might actually slow down and push these cars to what? That is some. Oh, well, he's thinking about it. There he goes.
There he goes.
That is,
you can see the devil on his shoulder there, trying to decide if he wants to push the 91.
Well, Stephen Ott in the 16. I don't think he's going to take any prisoners. He's going to take a couple freebies here. Around the outside he goes, and he'll take a couple spots. And the 83, Dennis Barrett. Oh, he might get some help from the 16. This is some great display of. Oh, it just gets up underneath the 83.
Oh, the Ferrari does not like to push, and you see the 16 giving up, knowing that he almost wrecked.
Yep, and behind you see the 91 getting a push from the 8.
And here's Allison Drini. He's come all the way around trying to push these guys across the line. Fitzgerald getting a push from the 51. Nice teamwork here from a lot of these guys.
I think the problem is I don't think that 83 is in neutral here, Finney. These GT3 cars can't shift down into neutral, and when they're in gear, they're really hard to push.
I'm watching the greatest drag race of the century here. Two guys being pushed to the line. And here comes the 83. He's going to cross the line ahead of the 91. That's 8th and 9th place coming across the line there. Great shot. Great stuff, guys.
That was interesting.
Whoa!
Oh, man.
And the 91 going into outer space. So I guess with that, we'll try to catch. There's the winning car, the 23 of Houseel in pit road. And in a few minutes, we'll try to catch a replay of him. Sorry, not a replay, an interview with him. And don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. right, and we're here with your race winner, Kenneth Hausila, and man, you put on a hell of a show. Really quiet race for you up towards the front. Just want to tell us like how are you feeling throughout the race? Were you feeling any pressure at all, or were you just trying to make sure you hit your marks?
The first couple of laps, once I saw DJ was behind Kevin, it was just push as hard as I possibly could. I set 2 really fast laps there and tried to stretch the gap and worked out. This week I managed to do my fuel calculations correctly, so that's always a plus.
Yeah, we saw some drivers, notably Dave Fitzgerald, struggling with getting the fuel calculations right. Were you, when you were going to this race, were you planning on pitting if you were caught in traffic, caught in behind some guys, maybe trying to get some clean air, or were you happy just pitting where you decided and kind of cutting the race in half or something like that?
Pretty much just stretch the fuel tank as far as possible and go from there. I mean, you don't want to carry around a whole bunch of fuel, so...
Alright, well there was your race winner, Kenneth Hausila. Fantastic job in the GT3 machinery tonight. Wish you good luck also for the rest of the races and especially the 2.4 at Daytona.
Thanks, guys.
Alright, now we're talking to your runner-up driver, GJ Alessandrini, and finished in second. And just a little bit short there, man. You're so close. Pretty much equal pace with the 23. Did you have any sort of strategy that you were planning, trying to make up that deficit of 7 seconds, or what was your your game plan?
Just drive and hope Ken messes up, because it was basically his once Kevin split us up, and man, it's really difficult to pass. I was trying and bobbing and weaving, and it was slowing Kevin down, and it was just letting Ken get away. So really, at the point where I was finally in front of Kevin, it was just kind of hope Ken makes a mistake, and Ken didn't. So, and Ken had great pace. It would have been a fun battle between him and I, but I mean, he still edged it out on pace. The only chance I had was to beat him on consistency.
All right, well, there was your second place driver, DJ Alessandrini. Nice job in the GT3 machines. Wish you luck for the rest of the season.
All right, thanks, man.
All right, and we got Kevin. Kevin, how do you say your last name? I definitely butchered it a few times here tonight. You want to try to give me a good pronunciation?
That would be Furlan.
Furlan. Okay, I did say it right at one point. I'm not sure where exactly I did say it right. But you had a pretty also quiet night back in third place. You had a decent gap to the 191 of Alessandrini. Did you, once you were set kind of back there, did you have any strategy trying to get back up to him, or any game plan that you had to go with, or were you just trying to set your own pace and drive your own race?
No, I had the good start and jumped to the lead, but I knew Ken would draft right back by me. And I figured I'd have some fun and see if I could stay in second for as long as I could. But for whatever reason, the car picked up understeer and I lost the front tires, which hadn't happened in any of the practices up to that point. So, you know, once AJ got back to me the second time, there was no point in fighting him any harder, so I just let him go because the only thing I could do was to lift sooner for the corners, and that was just making me super unpredictable, and it was just going to lead to 2 banged up cars. So I just pulled over on the backstretch and let him go about his business, and at that point I just settled in and ran to the end.
All right, that was Karen Furlan in third place in the 97. Great job. Good luck for you in the rest of the season. All right, now in the booth we got Dave Fitzgerald. Finished out the race in 10th, and man, we gotta ask you, what happened to you there at the end?
Well, I grossly underestimated my fuel by about 0.7 of a lap. So I had to come in for a quick splash, and then I miscalculated once again. So I need to go back to school.
No, I definitely been. I think a lot of people also at home can agree. Being at some point in time, being in that sort of scenario where you're running out of fuel. But looking more to the positive side of things, when you're running up into the top 5, how was your car feeling in and around everyone? Were you feeling that you had some pace to potentially take it up towards the lead potentially, or were you feeling happy running in around 5th place?
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to apologize to Lewis Alessi for ruining his race on the first lap. I just got a little overzealous, got in there too. I think someone said there was 3 wide in turn 2, which was probably 1 car too many. But the car felt like a good 4th, 5th place car today. It felt really smooth. It didn't really degrade much during the stint. I sort of ran a alternate strategy, which didn't work, but I had about 2/3 of the allowed fuel, and then I was going to come in and put the rest of it in for the second stint. That way I was trying not to use a whole lot of my tires with all that extra weight back there, and it probably would have worked out had I got the right gas, because I think I came in 4th, and I came out in 6th, but I saw the next 2 guys pretty close. Then I had to duck into the pits again, so it was all over. And then I ran out of gas and someone pushed me across the line.
Yeah, we caught all of that live, seeing that, I guess you can call it drag race towards the line. You and I believe that was the 83 of Dennis Barrett being pushed towards the line. So solid job up until what unfortunately happened towards you in the end in the fuel scenario. But definitely wish you luck for the rest of the season.
Thanks, Finian. Great job again tonight. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Alright, so that's going to round out Sebring here. 45-minute race here in the GT3 cars. Next up for these guys will indeed be a point race. That'll be back with the Mustangs and the MX-5s, and they'll be back at VIR, and that'll be next week. Coming up this week, though, however, on Saturday, we have the VRL Virtual Racing League at Michigan, the new Michigan tracks. That'll be a fun race to watch. Also, that same day, we have Dirt Late Models, and I believe they are at Eldora. I might be wrong. It's some dirt track. So they're going to have a race also for money for those guys up on the plate. And on Sunday, we also have another dirt race with the 3 wide guys, and they're Dirt Triple Crown with the street stocks. And then on Monday, we will have the 3 wide Indy Triple Crown at Iowa. So that's our next week here at SimTV. Thank you for watching, and have a good night.